this is Looking Glass. We have a missile launch detection.
Confirmed. We have missile warning. Confirm threat and report confidence.
Continuous tracking confirmed. Inbound threat confidence is high.
Engagement authorized.
Interceptor onboard targeting active. Multiple objects detected. Target assignment initiated.
Well, the video you just watched is attempting to hype up what the possibilities for the so-called Golden Dome might be. And it was released by a defense contractor, Lockheed Martin, back in March, which received, by the way, $25 billion in government contracts to carry out President Donald Trump's missile defense shield, or at least what he has proposed to be a missile defense shield, similar to the Iron Dome here in the United States. And now you have defense contractors and tech firms alike lining up to get their piece of taxpayer money, their piece of the pie. So here's a list of the firms that are either attached to the Golden Dome already or are currently lobbying hard for their involvement for the Golden Dome, according to reporting from Sludge. You have a bunch of companies I've never heard of, and Anduril, Boeing, Hermes, L3 Harris, Lockheed Martin, Palantir, which is unsurprising. Palantir likes to get its grubby little hands on everything, RTX, and SpaceX. Now, given Elon Musk's falling out with Trump, I don't know if he's going to get any government contracts here for the Golden Dome, but the Golden Dome is intended to be a missile defense system similar to that of Israel's Iron Dome. Now, notably, there are some, I guess, geographical differences between Israel and the United States. The United States is massive, giant landmass. Israel is a small country where the Iron Dome is, possible. But it would also include missile sensors in space, hence why SpaceX shows up on that list. And of course, that's for the Golden Dome. And we did cover this alarming detail in April. SpaceX has proposed setting up its role in Golden Dome as a subscription service in which the government would pay for access to the technology rather than own the system outright. So not only will American citizens not own anything and like it, these corporations are looking to make it so the US government owns nothing and apparently would be at the mercy of corporations, right? As if corporations don't rule this country already. Now, keep in mind that $25 billion is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the project. And that's what Lockheed Martin was able to enjoy in the form of a government contract. Now, in May, Trump announced that he had selected a $175 billion design for the Golden Dome to be funded through the end of his term. But let's keep it real, folks. That's a laughable underestimate of how much this Golden Dome project would really cost. So that same month, as a Trump statement, the Congressional Budget Office projected the total cost of the system over 20 years would be closer to $542 billion. But even that, I think, would be an underestimate. Independent Senator Angus King, extrapolating from a Department of Defense initiative, has warned that the price tag to cover America could reach $6.2 trillion. And look, this has opened up yet another opportunity for defense contractors to spend big on lobbying, spend big on bribing the government in order to get far bigger government contracts as they participate in the construction of the Golden Dome. So according to Open Secrets, defense firms spent over $149 million on federal lobbying last year. And that's the highest number since 2010. But that $150 million actually pales in comparison to the amount of money that these firms receive from the government. So a new report shows the extent of public funding flowing to privately held weapons companies from 2020 to 2024, $2.4 trillion in Pentagon contracts, making up around 54% of the Department of Defense's discretionary spending. And just 5 companies, Lockheed Martin, RTX, Boeing, General Dynamics, and Northrop Grumman, received over $770 billion of that amount. And all the while, the revolving door just keeps turning. Over 12 defense officials from the Biden administration now work at these defense companies. Cenk, back over to you.
Yeah, so we're asking a pretty simple question on the live chat today. Who will benefit the most from Golden Dome? A, Americans. Already it's laughable, right? B, defense contractors. C, Elon Musk. And obviously, defense contractors are winning that poll. I'm always curious about the 5% that vote for something like, yeah, Americans are going to benefit from Golden Dome. I assume you have to be on the right because no one on the left wants it, and Trump is proposing it. But weren't you worried about deficits and the debt? And now we're going to spend trillions on this piece of junk that has no chance of working? Really? We're going to cover Alaska and Texas and we're going to cover the whole thing? Do you have any idea how astronomical that price would be? But I mean, let's just look at the money that's being spent now. And this is a perfect case of corruption, right? So the defense contractors last year spent $149 million lobbying. That's a lot of money. Now, of course, in mainstream media, they'll say that has no effect on the politicians. They received about $150 million and they thought, oh, I'm not affected by that at all. No, they got bought. All of them got bought for $149 million. So that's an interesting investment. That's a lot of money. How did it turn out for them? Well, I read you the numbers. Already in the last 5 years, they got $2.4 trillion. Trillion. So from Golden Dome alone, which is just a small part, it's gigantic overall, but it's a small part of the Pentagon budget. They're going to get 175 billion by the time Trump is done. That's pretty much locked in, right? At least that's his plans. 25 billion already got approved. And then look, forget the trillions. The 542 billion is Congressional Budget Office. Nonpartisan, very conservative estimate, right? So there's no way Golden Dome as a project is going to come in under $542 billion. Now, wouldn't you spend 150 million to get 2.4 trillion or 542 billion? Of course you would. That's why they do the corruption, because it pays really well. And so when we get frustrated with Israel and the wars they start and the ones we have to finance, et cetera, remember their partner in crime, literally, their partner in war crimes, are defense contractors from America. Palantir's huge, they very connected to Israel, but you don't have to be connected to Israel. You can just have pressure the politicians for the same thing. Make sure that the American taxpayers have to pay for Israel's weapons, and then we produce them, and you give us the money, and we have to pay for Israel's war, saying, hey, guess what? We win again. We have to pay for Golden Dome, we win again, we win again. They always win because they're the ones who bribe our government officials. So this is very simple, and it's a good, clear case of how we all get robbed. And so if you care about the debt, whether you're on the left or the right, this is going to add an enormous amount to the debt. Even if you thought, hey, maybe it works. Maybe there's a 5%, 25, maybe even 50% chance that it works. You really want to spend at a minimum $540 billion on that gamble? Do you think we're at this point, the 37 trillion in debt? Well, they just added 3 more. 40 trillion in debt, who cares? We'll be fine. Let's give it a shot. Let's roll the dice and spend all this money. What happened to Doge? What happened to all the cuts? Just the 175 billion dwarfs everything in Doge, even if all of Doge was true. So no, this is adding to the debt. Why? Same reason as every single thing that happens in Washington. The donors bribe the politicians and then they get exactly what they want, which is 1,000 or 10,000 times what they put into the politicians. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.